Welcome to another culture video. With Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars coming to close out the current and upcoming phases of MCU projects, here we break down what's come before and guide you into what's to come. The MCU's most recent run includes Phase 1 from 2008 to 2012, with the following releases: Iron Man, Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2, Thor, Captain America First Avenger, Avengers Assemble.
Phase 2 from 2013 until 2015 with the following releases: Iron Man 3, Thor The Dark World, Captain America The Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy, Avengers Age of Ultron, Ant-Man.
Phase 3 from 2016 to 2019 with the following releases: Captain America Civil War, Doctor Strange, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Spiderman Homecoming, Thor Ragnarok, Black Panther, Avengers Infinity War, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Captain Marvel, Avengers Endgame, Spider-Man Far From Home.
Phase 4 from 2021 until 2022 with the following releases: WandaVision, The Falcon and Winter Soldier, Black Widow, Loki Season 1, What If, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, Eternals, Hawkeye, Spider-Man No Way Home, Moon Knight, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, Miss Marvel, Thor Love and Thunder, She-Hulk, Attorney at Law, Werewolf by Night, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, The Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special.
And finally, Phase 5 from 2023 to 2025 with the following releases: Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Secret Invasion, Loki Season 2, The Marvels, What If Season 2, Echo, Deadpool and Wolverine, Agatha All Along, What If Season 3, Captain America Brave New World, Daredevil Born Again Season 1, Thunderbolts, and Ironheart.
Phase 1 has taken us through the introduction of the hallmark Marvel characters, beginning with film entries for Iron Man, Captain America and Thor, set up as the main forces within the Avengers to face the first major MCU villain, Loki. Loki has always had a complex character journey, having been adopted as an Asgardian, but living in the shadow of Thor, with a craving for power which was thwarted by the Avengers.
Phase 2 sees the main three heroes' journeys continue in their respective movies, with S.H.I.E.L.D.'s infiltration by Hydra revealed, along with new heroes such as the Guardians and Ant-Man's introductions. Iron Man's significance also increases, with Stark's creation of Ultron, a peacekeeping project gone wrong, who reckons himself against humanity until being stopped by the wider Avengers unit, now assisted by Stark's technology software turned hero, Vision.
Phase 3 introduced further new characters like Doctor Strange, Black Panther, and Captain Marvel, and explores rising tensions between the heroes and the Avengers unit. Differing perspectives resulted in the group splitting into two, led by Iron Man and Captain America, with relationships shattered and the team fractured. This gave Thanos the upper hand in his quest for the Infinity Stones, as his legions faced off against the severed Avengers across both Earth and space, with the division arguably leading to their loss. The ultimate showdown came in Avengers Endgame, where the heroes fought to reverse the damage done to the universe, and had their final confrontation with Thanos, this time victorious.
Avengers! Assemble.
Phase 4 saw a notable shift in output from the MCU, with not only a focus on TV shows being introduced and released on Disney+, which focused on some of the side characters / Avengers like Wanda, Falcon, the Winter Soldier, Hawkeye, and Loki, to name a few, but a slightly different storytelling style, with the movies becoming more individual, whilst TV shows became an integral part of the overall story arc, with the build-up to Kang the Conqueror. The Multiverse saga also came into full swing, with Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, and Loki all meeting variants of themselves from other universes in their respective storylines.
Great, it's just some random guy.
New characters like Shang-Chi and the Eternals were introduced, and the Thor and Black Panther franchises continued with fresh takes on the characters.
Phase 5 continued building the Kang story in Quantumania and Loki Season 2. However, due to legal issues with a cast member, Marvel pivoted away from Kang and shifted focus to a new villain with a familiar face, Doctor Doom, now played by Robert Downey Jr. The Guardians had their final adventure, and the long-awaited team-up of Deadpool and Wolverine sparked somewhat dwindling enthusiasm amongst some fans. Captain America also came back into the fold with a new man behind the shield, Sam Wilson, played by Anthony Mackie, with hints at his important role as the new leader of the Avengers, a team he will need to rebuild in preparation for you-know-who. The Thunderbolts, a stand-in team for the currently absent Avengers, consisting of characters who have mostly been villains in previous MCU films, were reintroduced in their own movie.
The highest grossing movie in MCU Phase 1 is Avengers Assemble. It earned approximately $1.5 billion worldwide. The highest grossing movie in MCU Phase 2 is Avengers Age of Ultron. It earned approximately $1.3 billion worldwide. The highest grossing movie in MCU Phase 3, Avengers Endgame, no surprise. It earned approximately $2.8 billion worldwide, which to date is the highest grossing movie, which poses a challenge to their upcoming movies because this was a very high bar to set. Highest grossing movie in MCU Phase 4 is Spiderman No Way Home, with the approximate earnings of $1.9 billion worldwide, and the highest grossing movie in MCU Phase 5 to date is Deadpool and Wolverine, earning $1.3 billion worldwide.
It is clear that the culmination of the Infinity Saga from phases 1 to 3, which came in Avengers Endgame, was the most profitable. The following milestone events announced by Marvel are Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars, which will be the concluding stories for phases 4 to 6. Executives will surely hope for an even higher return on investment for arguably the MCU's biggest storylines yet.
Welcome to the Baxter Building.
We make a point to do family dinner every week. Sunday at 7, on the dot, no matter what. We're all here.
The new iteration of the Fantastic Four is set in a different universe from the Prime universe, Earth 616. Therefore will be important players moving forward, proving their formidable nature in the fight against Galactus, the Devourer of Worlds, in their introductory film. With their confirmed appearances in Doomsday and the fact that Doctor Doom is a prime antagonist for the team in the comics, it is safe to say that the characters are being thrown into the deep end from the jump.
The latest Avengers will be the first installment in the franchise since 2019's Avengers Endgame, unless we're counting Thunderbolts' rebrand to the New Avengers, but that's another story. We'll be going into more detail about Doomsday later on in the video. Spider-Man Brand New Day was officially announced on April 1st, 2025. This places the movie release directly after Doomsday, which has sparked speculation about whether Spider-Man will actually show up with the Avengers, or if the movie's events will take place simultaneously with Doomsday's story. Alternatively, some theories have suggested that Brand New Day will take place on Battleworld, further removing the hero from his previously more grounded movies. Tom Holland's schedule has been packed, filming for a role in Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey, also releasing next year. So it may be the case that Holland simply cannot appear in Doomsday, instead being saved for Secret Wars. This is highly likely given not only his star power and presence in the past 2 Avengers movies, but also due to Spider-Man's role in the 1984 Secret Wars run, and it being the first time Spider-Man is seen in the famous black suit.
Dealing with the fallout and events of Doomsday, not much is known about this sequel as of yet. Chris Hemsworth as Thor, Anthony Mackie as Sam Wilson / Captain America, Danny Ramirez as the Falcon, Sebastian Stan as Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier, Paul Rudd as Scott Lang, Ant-Man, Tom Hiddleston as Loki, the antagonist of the first Avengers film, Letitia Wright as Shuri, Black Panther, Winston Duke as M'Baku, Simu Liu as Shang-Chi, and the newcomers into the MCU, Pedro Pascal as Mr. Fantastic, Vanessa Kirby as Invisible Woman, Joseph Quinn as the Human Torch, Ebon Moss-Backrack as The Thing, Patrick Stewart as Professor Charles Xavier, Ian McKellen as Magneto, Kelsey Grammer as Beast, Alan Cumming as Nightcrawler, James Marsden as Cyclops, Channing Tatum as Gambit, Rebecca Romijn as Mystique, Florence Pugh as Yelena Bolova, David Harbour as Red Guardian, Wyatt Russell as US Agent, Hannah John Carmen as Ghost, Lewis Pullman as Bob / Sentry, Tenoch Huerta Mayer as Namor, and Robert Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom.
There were some notable absences from the casting announcements, which were surprising to say the least. Frontrunners such as Spiderman, played by Tom Holland, Doctor Strange, played by Benedict Cumberbatch, and other integral characters like Star-Lord, played by Chris Pratt, the Hulk, played by Mark Ruffalo, Deadpool, played by Ryan Reynolds, and Wolverine, played by Hugh Jackman, didn't make the cut either, as both Robert Downey Jr. and Marvel hinted at further announcements on the way. That's what you call a deep bench of talent. Actually, it's more like a row, but an extra long one. That must be it, right? To which Marvel Studios replied, there's always room for more. ... It is thought that due to Doomsday's production ramping up, Marvel was simply revealing a limited number of cast members who had officially signed on to appear, with others yet to get their contracts officially in place.
With Sam Wilson taking over from Steve Rogers as the Star-Spangled Man, there came a mixture of excitement and skepticism. Sam's journey has taken him from walking alongside Cap as the Falcon, becoming an Avenger, going on the run after the events of Civil War, and fighting against Thanos and his army. His bravery and selfless nature paid off, with Steve choosing him as the heir to his shield, which Sam felt undeserving of, believing that Steve made the wrong choice. Regardless of his lack of super soldier serum, Sam's courage and good nature proves his worth as Captain America. Working alongside Bucky Barnes in The Falcon and Winter Soldier, we saw Sam lose the shield to John Walker, Thunderbolts, an ex-soldier who, despite a successful career, proved that he was by no means the right man for the job. Sam fought back, reclaiming the shield and accepting his rightful role. In Brave New World, Sam was tasked with rebuilding the Avengers, giving him the opportunity to be a leader, a role he has not previously had. Doomsday will potentially show the formation of this new team, or perhaps throw fans straight into a fully fledged team. It will also be interesting to see how the other Avengers view and treat Sam as their new leader. Spoiler alert, especially considering his lack of powers compared to the likes of Captain Marvel or Doctor Strange.
Thor's most recent appearances were in Avengers Endgame 2019 and Thor Love and Thunder 2022, both creating controversy in their own right. In Endgame, Thor's arc dealt with the fallout from Avengers Infinity War and the guilt and depression he felt for not killing Thanos, which manifested itself in drunkenness, overeating, and passing over his duties as king. Many criticised the fat-shaming element of this portrayal and the severe change in character. However, some may choose to see this portrayal as a way of shedding masculinity ideals and allowing a character who had encountered catastrophic events and losses the chance to truly feel and show his emotions. Regardless, the movie's final act shows Thor back in fighting fashion, giving Thanos his all alongside Iron Man and Captain America. Love and Thunder's portrayal took us back to the more traditional idea of Thor, back in shape, but with slightly more, well, a lot more humour than Thor Ragnarok, and a second Thor in the shape of Jane Foster, Thor's ex. Thor's arc in this film centred around reuniting with his lost love, and eventually, and unconventionally, becoming a father, much in the vein of his own father, Odin, by adopting the child of an enemy. This leaves the question of how Thor fits into Doomsday, who now has his child to fight for, much like Tony Stark did, and we know how Tony's story ended. Some theorise that this may be Thor's final outing, giving him a send-off worthy of the much-loved Avenger.
Doctor Doom has appeared in pre-MCU films, however, Doomsday will be his first MCU appearance, much to many fans' disapproval. Many people find the fact that Doom has had zero build-up in any MCU projects as a bad sign, especially considering Thanos had teaser appearances in Avengers, Guardians of the Galaxy, and Avengers Age of Ultron. Of course, this lack of build-up has been due to the change in plans for Avengers 5, originally meant to focus on Kang the Conqueror, with Loki, Ant-Man, and Wasp Quantumania building up Kang as the next big bad villain. However, with Jonathan Majors' legalities causing controversy, paired with a clear sense of audience dissatisfaction with MCU output, Marvel shifted focus to the universally loved Robert Downey Jr., a much safer bet in attracting audiences back into the fold. Although the Fantastic Four First Steps releases in July, and an appearance seems inevitable, there is no guarantee that Doom will appear, especially as director Matt Shakman stated, "Doom's a great character. Other film adaptations have done both an origin story and Doom. We're doing neither, and that allows us to look at them from a fresh perspective. The likelihood is he will at least show up in a post-credit scene."
Galactus, the Devourer of Worlds, will make his first villainary introduction in the Fantastic Four First Steps, a character of great significance in the comic books, but has not yet been introduced in the MCU. The origin of Galactus begins as his universe is dying, approached by the sentience of the sixth cosmos, fused with its essence, and passed on to the next cycle, the seventh cosmos. He emerged as Galactus. A familiar character we have seen on screen is one of Galactus's heralds, the Silver Surfer, last appearing in the early Marvel Cinematic Era, 2007. He is also shown to be a cosmic being, but bound in eternal obedience until choosing to rebel to help save the planet. Marvel Studios clearly chose a different approach in the MCU version, following the story of Shalabal being a herald of Galactus, as opposed to Norin-Rad. With a character as powerful as the Silver Surfer under Galactus' command, the audience looks in anticipation as to how she will be depicted.
Loki famously met his end in Avengers Infinity War when Thanos killed him in front of Thor. This seemed like a final goodbye to the character after multiple instances of faking his own death, with the addition of Thanos' promise of no resurrections this time. This turned out to be half true. Loki doesn't come back to life in Avengers Endgame, but due to time travel shenanigans by the Avengers, the Loki we originally met in 2012 steals an Infinity Stone, creating a branch reality separate from the main timeline. This led Loki to encounter the Time Variance Authority, or TVA, an organization that monitors the multiverse and trims the branch realities that aren't meant to exist. Another redemption arc for Loki emerges because of this, with audiences witnessing him fall in love with one of his female variants named Sylvie, facing a Kang variant named He Who Remains, who regulates the multiverse as its god, and ultimately holding the multiverse together at the end of time, alone. Where this leaves him for his next appearance in Avengers Doomsday is yet to be seen. However, a reunion between Thor and Loki is bound to happen. Set up years ago in Infinity War when Loki confidently says to his brother, "I assure you, brother, the sun will shine on us again."
The visitation of other dimensions has been building since the introduction of the Infinity Stones back in Phase 1. Doctor Strange, one of the more considerable forces in the Avengers, who once held onto the Time Stone itself, had his story arc expand in Spider-Man No Way Home. To erase the world's knowledge of who Spider-Man was, he opens a fracture in the universe, which was never fully closed, as we saw in the credits. The multiverse story arc continues in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, which is where we get a sneak peek into the other reality version of Reed Richards, played by John Krasinski, and can see Professor X adding Wanda's magical abilities and the plot to subside her growing darkness, ending with Doctor Strange becoming a variant of his original self. With the multiverse, there also comes a multitude of variants for characters, and the ability to revive fan favourites under the proviso that they are from another universe, and therefore any meaningful character deaths are not completely undermined. Once Phase 6 closes, it's likely that the multiverse saga will end, which may be for the better if character arcs and endings are to be preserved.
The Russo brothers cite both runs of the Secret Wars comics 1984 and 2015, respectively, as direct inspiration for the films. The 1984 comic run sees a large range of heroes and villains transported to Battleworld by the Beyonder, a character of infinite power, promising those who slay their enemies anything they desire. This leads to factions of characters forming their own teams, including the X-Men and Avengers, working against villains such as Molecule Man, Dr. Octopus, and the Wrecking Crew. Dr. Doom works as his own entity, commanding the villains whilst plotting against the Beyonder. The 2015 runs focus on an event called The Incursion, in which two planets from different universes, Earth 616 and the Ultimate Universe Earth, are on course to collide, destroying both planets in the process. In addition, multiple Beyonders form a plan to destroy the multiverse, which is stopped by Dr. Doom, who absorbs their power and forms his own Battleworld by stitching together the remaining parts of the multiverse.
The focus on Doctor Doom looks to be heading in the direction of Jonathan Hickman's version of Doom, gaining legions of power to form Battleworld, and eventually crowning himself Emperor, as seen in the Emperor Doom comic from 1987. The presence of the multiverse in recent MCU projects likely means that the 2015 Secret Wars run will have much more influence over the movie. Perhaps Doom doesn't initially resemble Stark, but after looking into other universes, finds a hero who the whole world looks up to and one who can be trusted, and maybe Doom finds a way to change his appearance to look like Stark, presenting himself as the world's resurrected saviour, further adding to his god complex, and uses this as a means to enact his plans undetected. There's clearly much to look forward to in the next chapter of the MCU, with fan favourite characters making their official entries into the MCU, interacting with already existing characters, and storylines which will take audiences to places previously unseen on the big screen. Both Doomsday and Secret Wars will surely grant fans the same emotion, action, surprises, and spectacle as previous Avengers movies have done. With this being their biggest storyline yet to tackle, the Russo brothers have a monumental task to execute, but with their resume boasting two of Captain America's best received movies, along with the past two Avengers movies, there shouldn't be any reason to doubt or worry about the outcome of both Doomsday and Secret Wars. We're in for a treat.
At Cloutskout, we also release weekly newsletters on economy, sports, and culture. If you'd like to subscribe, you can see the link in the description. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.